I'm joined now by Congressman Gregory Meeks. He's the top Democrat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He was part of today's briefing. So, Congressman, let me ask you this. In a briefing of 500-odd members of Congress, 400 plus in the House, as many as 100 in the Senate, I'm not going to assume perfect attendance. How thorough should we have expected that briefing to be, given how many people were being briefed?
Well, I think that we needed to brief as to up to date, minute by minute, what happened, what didn't happen, what should have happened, and what we could do in the future. And this was just for the House members. This was not inclusive of the Senate. And to have each member come up and ask the question that was on his or her minds. And I think that happened today, where we did get the facts from the military, the State Department, and other members of the administration, and have some idea of where we should be going from here.
I want to read you something that Brian Schatz, senator from Hawaii, said. He said, "I respect the need to keep some of this classified, but we all understand that some of the desire to keep things classified has to do with not wanting to disclose to the public things that might be inconvenient politically for the department." This was after his briefing, and I know he got the assumption, I would assume, that you guys got the same general briefing. I'm curious if you felt that way after this briefing.
Well, I felt, number one, I know that the administration has declassified a lot of things, as we've seen in the media recently, both from you, Chuck, and the New York Times and the Washington Post. Yeah, there are some gaps, as your prior guest indicated, that we need to focus on to fill those gaps. And so in those classified sessions and some of the sessions that I've had, we're going to be making sure that that happens. But I'm also was satisfied to know that the decision-making process that went in was we learn more now by not taking the balloon down in the beginning, and once we first saw it, and it was assessed not to be a security risk or a danger to the United States or the United States people, that by traveling it and watching it until we got over the Atlantic Ocean, we've learned a lot more about the balloon campaign and the capabilities and what they're after and the technology, quite frankly. So I think that, yes, we got to fix some of those gaps, but we have learned more than we would have known otherwise.
No, and I guess, though, the question is, it turns out there were some balloon intrusions that we didn't know what they were, and now we do. We've gone back in hindsight. Obviously, there's a gap here. What do you have a sense of that gap? Is it a gap that's too reliant on, you heard we're so into AI and drones, we forget sometimes some old school methods. Is that why this happened in your mind?
Well, no, I think that, and I can't disclose what we discussed in the classified session, but I think that there is ways that we can do better in regards to some other methods. But I also think that it's clear that we need to also work with our friends and allies. Remember that this also came over Canada. And so there should be some more dialogue and conversation with them. It's been known now that these balloons have flown over 5 continents. And so we need to work together still collectively with friends and allies who are also very upset with China violating their sovereignty. So there's ways that we can do that also, ways that we can better share information and get information.
Did you get a sense, the surveillance in the other continents, how much of it, was there a pattern to the surveillance? For instance, my first thought would be, did they do this over countries where we have basing agreements with? Meaning, they may have surveilled 40 countries, but was the target really America?
Well, not from the information that I have gathered thus far.
Okay.
I think that they're looking, so that's not the case. I think that it's a general program that they've had, just going over various countries to see what they could see. And I should say in this instance also, they didn't get much information at all. Of course, by tracking it over, we made sure that communications and other sensitive areas that they may have flown was locked down. So there's no question about that. So that's why the determination was to follow it till it got over to the Atlantic Ocean. The president said at the best, he left it to the military and our intelligence to their judgment, their determination to shoot it down at the best and most appropriate time. And I think that was the appropriate thing to do.
Did you, last question, was our folks, were they, and I'm not trying to bait you into saying something that will get twisted in a headline, but was the technology impressive and advanced, or was the technology less impressive than meets the eye? How would you characterize it?
Well, I would characterize it that we know what to do. Just put it that way. We know what to do, and how to do it, and we sent the message to China. I don't think that China thought we would shoot it down. Period. There's some delicacies that are going on here. I know you talked with your prior guest about the Cold War and the Cuban Missile Crisis. So we want to make sure that there's no accidental war that starts because of a mistake. And so those kinds of things are still being worked on.
Congressman Gregory Meeks, he's the ranking Democrat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Always good to get your perspective and expertise. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.